What's good, world? ADMT.TV today on a new episode of DaD'S. So I'm here with my man Malcolm. We're talking about fraud investigating and things of that nature. So Malcolm, tell them a little bit about what it is that you do as a profession.
All right, so basically I receive accounts that either have been claimed to have fraud or possible fraud, and I look into it based on what they report and what the trend might be at the time, or just fraud in general, anything that might look suspicious on the account, and just take a good look at it, see if they're actually telling the truth, because people have a tendency to claim things that they actually have done, and it turns out that they spent a little more than they actually wanted to and think they could get away with it.
All right, so does a lot of that go into, because you got, you know, these things like scammers and things like that. Does that coincide with what it is that you do?
Yes, it does. Not that we actually go and pick the actual scammers up, but we know that if someone that lives in Iowa wouldn't be spending money at a gas station in the middle of Queens.
Right.
So, or going to a Target in the middle of Jersey. So what we do is we see a pattern. We look at your spending pattern as a whole, whether it's an older card or a new card, and we see if this is something that you actually do or something that's really just out of your pattern, either whether it's for your age range or just your social range.
Wow. Yeah, so I could see that, you know, in a situation like that, man, they on top of you. What are some of the things that you guys look for when someone is committing fraud? Okay, so basically with fraud, you know how we have chips now in most credit cards, most things like that. We look for if the card is being used online or if it's being used on a location. Depending on how the card is being used, we can tell if it's a counterfeit card, if it's the actual card been stolen, allegedly stolen, I should say, or if it's, like I said, an online transaction. So we look, that's one of the major things we look at. And then we look at the website, the country of the website, or the origin country of the transaction in itself, and the dollar amount. Those are things that will tell us just about how worried we need to be. What is the percentage of people that get caught committing any type of fraud when it comes to credit cards and bank cards and situations like that? The percentage of them actually getting caught, they themselves physically, we wouldn't honestly know. The cops, the police, normally there's a special bureau that actually deals with actually trying to catch them and building cases on that. We just send them the information of, all right, well, this ring is doing this. Like, there are certain people, certain groups of people that hate certain banks reasons. Being that holiday season is coming up now, this is when our fraud tends to ramp up, especially online fraud. And people will call in, order new cards. They'll get your first and last name, call your bank, have them either make you an authorized user, or they'll have a new card sent out, and then they'll be waiting outside your address. Wow. And then try to intercept the card itself. That way they have it, and then they activate it and go about. And then you have something new which people are trying to do. It hasn't been too successful yet, but they'll take the chips out of cards and put them in another card, a counterfeit card, to make it look like this card is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing. Wow, that is incredible. You know, technology is something, man, and people will always try to come up with different inventive ways to get and seek your stuff. What are some of the things that the average person could do to prevent some type of fraud? For the most part, be aware of the websites you're on. Don't go to sketchy websites. Don't go to unsecure websites. Don't buy things off of Instagram just because you see it there. Like, at least look it up, Google it, go to the actual website, product website, and not just click the link, because 9 times out of 10, that's how you lose your information. Wow. Now, you know, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of times when you're on Instagram and stuff like that, if you're looking up something, sometimes it'll pick it up, and next thing you know, it'll come up, it'll pop up like you could shop on there. Exactly. Is that good to do? Right now, it's still really new, so I see where you can do it. And depending on the merchant itself, like, I don't think Target would be an issue, or Walmart, or things like that. Let's say an entrepreneurial business, brand new, something like that. I would Google it, see what it looks like, see what the website looks like, if it looks good, if it looks cheap, see what they're selling, see if they have any reviews, stuff like that, just to limit your possible fraud. And to our viewers, what about around the holiday times? I know that mostly the time when people like to strike and do things like that. What are your suggestions, advice for the people around those times? Like right now, especially right now during this climate that we're in right now with COVID going on, I know it's gonna be, a lot of people are gonna be online shopping. It's very hard to go out and shop and be like, just be aware
of the things that you're buying. Don't go on a website and they ask you for your card information, but they saying it's a free trial. If it's a free trial, they never need your card information. There's always going to be a charge. There's a fine print somewhere saying that they're gonna charge you, or if the fine print's not there and they're asking you for your card information, don't give it to them. Okay. Because it's not necessary. If it's free, why would they need your information?
Right. Do you feel with the inception of the chip, has it been better as far as preventing fraud, or do you see pretty much the same whether they had the chip and prior to?
It has made a lot of things easier. It's easier in terms of it's harder for them to counterfeit and make it a true claim, because now you have to insert the chip. That lets us know they were there. This is where they're at right now. Without it, it was harder to tell. We either had to wait for a trend to consistently pop up, like, all right, something's wrong here, or be lucky enough to be like, nah, this doesn't sit right. With the chip, it's a lot easier for, like I said, in person. You actually went to the store. Online, it's still a little hard to tell unless it's just in their history. If it's not in their history, for whether it's a similar merchant or the dollar amount, it's harder to tell. And especially during this time when Christmas is coming up and things like that, we have to be a little more lenient, because it is the holiday season. People are gonna go to the supermarket and buy $400 worth of food.
Right.
People are gonna start their Christmas shopping now, and they're going to UGGs to spend $400, going to Neiman Marcus and things like that. They're doing things they wouldn't normally do. So that's where buyer history comes in for us. We have to see, all right, well, what did they spend this type of money last year? Did they have this credit limit last year?
So you see, people, that's very important. You got to be on top of your business.
At least for me, and I like to tell my coworkers and either my new coworkers, a lot of it is really common sense. It's a lot looking at their history. Would they do this? It really don't matter their age necessarily, unless you're 80 years old and you go into Foot Locker and buying $500 worth of stuff. That don't really sit right. It's a lot of common sense involved. It's not as difficult as it seems. Yes, you have to know a lot of technical stuff, but a lot of it is just being able to pinpoint, like, they wouldn't do this, and then coming up with the information to prove what you're saying.
So I seen those wallets where they supposed to be magnetized and things like that. Do you think those things are just gimmicks?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I've heard good and bad things about them. When it comes to those, I'm not even really sure, because I know for a fact sometimes having your card next to your phone can demagnetize the strip. So having a magnet next to it could possibly mess up your card. If it does work, then hopefully they figured it out. If it doesn't, I think you're just as safe. I would be more aware of the tap cards. Those are a little more difficult. The same way on your phone, having your card on your phone, to being able to do it like that. That you have to be a lot more aware of, because they have the portable scanners where they can just walk around with it, be next to you, and then scan your information, and you never know.
Wow.
Until it's too late.
Wow, man. Very interesting and very good information. See, on Hip DaD'S, we try to educate you on some of the things that you can do to protect yourself and your well-being. As far as your information, a lot of people use their computer to do a lot of the shopping. Do you think a lot of those are safe, or is like anything else, you got to make sure it's protected?
Make sure it's protected. Always make sure your stuff is protected, even from, not even just from an online standpoint, but from a home standpoint. The family fraud is a real thing. People will go, your friends will go on your laptop, steal your information because they have access to it. If I can find your credit card information on it and you never find out, it happens all the time. We have gotten multiple calls where the grandkids have taken the grandparents' information, the sons taking the father or the mother's information and bought things they weren't supposed to buy. Friends have taken the whole information, walked away, and didn't find out that it was their friend until they were given the delivery information. Wow.
Now, have you ever heard a story that was so outrageous that you were like,
yes. This couple from Philly went on a trip to Hawaii, used the card to pay for the trip, When they got to Hawaii, they went to the Apple store, they bought MacBooks, they bought iPads, they bought iPods, they did excursions, they did the whole nine.
Wow.
And we caught them right before they were about to leave. Now the crazy thing is they racked up about, I think about 30, 40 grand in in charges. Wow. So that's probably one of the most outlandish things we've seen.
Wow. Yeah, and you know, it has to hurt. I mean, you know, fortunately, a lot of the banks and stuff like that and the credit cards, when they do find this stuff out, the owner is usually reimbursed or entitled. But just to go through that, you know, I've had it happen to me, so I try to be extra careful whether I'm going to a gas station, because nowadays, man, with technology and the information that could be just swiped just like that, those readers and things like that, man, it makes it so difficult. And then it's the fact that once this does happen, now you got to make the calls, and then you got to adjust your whole information. So, man, you know, hats off to guys like you that are out there and teams that are out there trying to protect the best interests of the people. A lot of times that I'm sure a lot of people can relate, when you have to go through that, you're frustrated when sometimes you're waiting to make a purchase and then all of a sudden you're wondering why your card, you can't use it, and then you got to make that embarrassing call. Yeah. So I definitely know that, man. I'm sure that a lot of times you guys get to hear it from that side.
Yeah, we've definitely got, like I said, around this time they're normally a lot more lenient with your spending. We'll put you in strategies and loosen things up. That way you can make your purchases with no issues. On a regular day and during the regular season, we've gotten phone calls where you're spending a little more money than you normal, and the system caught it and placed a block on your account. Now you calling, cursing us out. And we 9 times out of 10 we take care of it, like right then and there. Like if you spending $5 grand when you normally don't even spend $500, chances are it's gonna flag the system. You're getting blocked immediately. Right. Because we trying to prevent anything that outside of your normal.
And so understand this, you know, a lot of times I know y'all sitting there cursing the people out, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to do their job, even though it may not be the easiest, and sometimes it can be a little embarrassing. But guess what? You know, at the end of the day, if it's going to prevent you from going through any financial heartaches, that's what we do here on Hip DaD'S. So, man, Malcolm, again, man, thank you for being so informative to the people out there, to the viewers. Again, ADMT.TV. New episode of Hip DaD'S. What's good, world? See you soon.